Because the identity of I have to get it right will create paralysis. The identity of I can handle outcomes even if it's imperfect creates momentum. Hey, welcome back to the Accidental CEO podcast. I want to talk about something that I think gets mislabeled a lot as a strategy problem, but it's actually an identity and safety problem. It's when you're actively trying to grow, but for some reason you can't seem to hold it. Like you want that next level, you worked for it, you've earned it, you're capable of it, and yet when things start expanding, it feels weird. You feel tight, you feel anxious, and you feel like you're bracing for impact. And sometimes it shows up as you procrastinating. Sometimes it shows up as you snapping at your team or overworking. Sometimes it shows up as you suddenly wanting to burn the whole thing down and start fresh because this isn't working. If you ever had a season where growth felt unsafe, this is for you. Because I wanted to give you a reframe that can change how you lead. A lot of founders don't have a growth problem. They have a capacity to feel safe with growth problem. It's a little bit different. And the way we fix that is not pushing harder, is by upgrading the identity that you're leading from and building the kind of support and structure that makes growth feel safe to hold. So let's make this super normal. When I say growth feels unsafe, I don't mean you are curled up in a ball on the floor every day. Sometimes it's way more subtle than that. It can look like you get a new client, instead of feeling excited, you feel dread. Your revenue increases, but so does your anxiety. Your audience grows and you suddenly want to hide. You hire help and you feel more on edge, not less. And you have more opportunities, and instead of choosing, you freeze. And you tell yourself things like, I just need to get more organized. I need a better plan. I need to be more disciplined. But it's actually happening in your nervous system. Your nervous system is like, this is a lot. I'm not sure we're safe here. And here's the line I want you to take with you. Your identity creates a capacity ceiling, meaning you can't sustainably hold a level of growth that contradicts the identity you're operating from. So if your identity is, I'm the one who handles everything, I have to prove that I deserve this, if I don't control it, it will fall apart, I can't let people down, then the growth doesn't mean more success. It would actually mean more exposure, more responsibility, more decisions, more risk, more people relying on you. And your nervous system goes crazy and says, cool, so danger, right? I remember when I first started hiring help in my photography business. So I built this whole brand, and it was all based on me being the face of the brand, and all the wedding planners in town, the venues all knew me as being the solo provider of the service in my business. But I was turning down a lot of clients and missing the opportunity to make additional money and serve more people. So I decided to grow a team. But that meant I have to be comfortable sending people out on their own to photograph a wedding where I wasn't going to be present. I couldn't control what kinds of things they were taking photos of. Were they missing any of the important events? Were they capturing those candid moments? And this is somebody's very special day. So very stressful for me as the owner of this business who has been working really hard to build a reputation, to pass that on and trust somebody else, really. So with that need to grow came a lot of anxiety. So having to understand all of that and make a decision on how am I going to support this growth without feeling like I'm being attacked all the time is very important, right? Like I've been there. This is a human. It's normal to feel like that. So here's where things get really practical. When growth feels unsafe, it usually shows up in three main places. Number one, your capacity, like your energy, right? Plus your nervous system. Number two, your team, how you lead people and how you delegate. And number three, your decision making, how you choose, how you commit, and the follow through. And I want to walk through each one so you can self-diagnose what's actually happening in your business and put some things here into place to start making a change. We're going to start with capacity because this is where most founders try to quote unquote mindset their way out of something that is actually a human limitation. When growth feels unsafe, your body will start doing things like staying on flight or flight mode, getting hypervigilant, scanning for what might go wrong, needing constant reassurance, bouncing between overworking and shutting down, and you'll call it a motivation problem. But it's usually nothing to do with motivation. It's stress. Your system is saying, I don't want this. It's saying, I don't know how to hold this without overextending. And here's the kicker. When you grow, you don't just need more strategy. You need more commitment. You need more support. You need more structure. Because if your business is expanding, but your containment stays the same, you feel like things are escaping from you everywhere. So growth starts feeling unsafe, not because you're incapable, but because your foundation hasn't caught up to your expansion. And that identity part is the foundation. If your identity is push through, your expansion plan would always be push harder to counteract that. But if your identity becomes I scale through support and structure, then your expansion plan changes. There is a difference between excellence and urgency, right? You can still have high standards at a human pace if you have the structure around it. Pushing isn't a moral flex anymore. We used to talk about it like that, but I think we've all come to a point where we realize that burning yourself to the ground is no badge of honor. The second part is the team, right? When growth triggers control. So growth would expose every leadership pattern you have, whether you want it or not. When things are calm, most people can be a very good leader. When growth hits, that's when you see your default setting. If growth feels unsafe, a lot of times you'll see people going into micromanaging. They're going to take tasks back. There will be some lack of clarity around delegation. And they'll go back to that I would just do it energy, right? Rushing the team, getting frustrated when people can't read their mind and things like that. Not because you're mean, just because you're trying to create safety with control. And I want to say this with so much compassion. Control is often a coping strategy. We had a whole episode about that. It's how your nervous system tries to prevent pain, right? It keeps you safe. So you're feeling more controlling as you grow. It's not because you're becoming a worse person. It's because your identity is trying to protect you. But the problem is that control doesn't scale. It caps your growth. It burns your team out and it burns you out. So the identity shift here is moving from I am the safety net to the system is the safety net, which means your standards have to become transferable, not lowered, transferable. And that looks like you defining very clearly what done means to your team, what done well means to your team and to you. Having checkpoints, building that feedback and a specific cadence so that you and your team know. And giving ownership, not just tasks. And yes, it does take effort up front. I'm not going to lie and say it's going to be a breeze and you're going to immediately have extra time. But that effort is what buys you freedom later. We are playing the longer game here. You're not just winging it, you are leading it. But let's be honest, being the CEO and the everything else can get lonely, messy, and exhausting. That's why I created the Accidental CEO Collective, a free Facebook community for creative entrepreneurs who never plan to be the boss. But damn it, here we are. Inside, I go live every week to share the real stuff. Strategies that don't require a business degree, behind the scenes struggles, because you're not the only one, and wins that we actually celebrate, even the tiny ones. If you're a scrappy, smart, sometimes slightly burnout founder who is ready to lead with more clarity and less chaos, this is your room. We're building a business that works for us, not one that runs us into the ground. Come join us. Let's grow, mess up, pivot, and succeed together. Just search the Accidental CEO Collective on Facebook and join our group today. Now let's talk about decision making, because that's the third part of that whole thing. Because when growth feels unsafe, decision starts feeling heavier than it should. And you're going to see things like changing your mind constantly, asking too many people for input. That is a big one that I see all the time. I have a recommendation that I actually heard from my friend Elaine podcast, Cubicle to CEO. I was listening to one of their episodes, and she had a guest that actually shared that she has an odd number of people, either 3 or 5, that she consults before big decisions. So if there's ever, a tie, there can be a tiebreaker in there, but she limits those, opinions to a very specific number of people. So you're not constantly changing back and forth based on different people's input. It also shows up as, you staying in draft mode and making decisions and then undoing it, like going back on things all the time. Because as your business grows, decisions feel more expensive, right? The story becomes that if I choose wrong, I'll lose everything. Or if I commit, I'll be trapped. And if I raise my prices, I'll lose my clients. If I hire, I'm going to waste money, all of that. So instead of deciding like a CEO, you start deciding like someone who's bracing for loss. And this is where identity is allowed, because the identity of I have to get it right will create paralysis. The identity of I can handle outcomes even if it's imperfect creates momentum. So one of the most powerful identity shifts for growth is moving from I need certainty to I can recover, recalibrate, and lead. And that shift is everything. So here's the truth: most people don't say it out loud. We don't just fear failing. We fear succeeding at a level that requires a new version of us. Because growth changes you. It changes your relationships. It changes your responsibilities. It changes your expectations. It changes how people see you, and mostly how you see yourself. And if your identity is tied to being the one who holds everything together, then growth threatens your identity. Let's think about that. That's why you feel scared at times and self-sabotage, because growth asks you to lead differently, with support, with delegation, with boundaries, with standards that don't live in your head and don't rely on you being involved in every detail. And that can feel like grief. We talked about that at a recent episode too. Like, wait, if I'm not the doer, then who am I? We start this business with that doer mentality. But now I'm challenging you to grow. So if growth feels unsafe, part of it might not be fear. It might be grief. Think about that. And you don't fix grief by forcing strategy. You honor it. And then you choose the next identity on purpose. Let me give you something simple to do this week. Pick one area where you're growing. Maybe it's revenue, maybe is your leads, your audience, your team, your visibility. And then ask what part of this growth feels unsafe and why. What is this identity I'm operating from when I feel unsafe? Maybe is I have to prove that I deserve this, or I can't mess this up. or if I'm not holding it, it won't happen, and I don't get to rest until it's perfect, then, and this is the key, choose an upgraded version of it. Something like, I scale through support, I lead through systems, not stress, I can hold growth without gripping, I don't have to overfunction to be excellent, and I can make decisions and recover. And you practice that identity not when you feel calm, but when you feel activated. Because this is where the change happens. This is why I'm giving you my identity shift pack as a free resource for this. Because if you're trying to grow, but it feels unsafe, it's usually not because you need more hustle. It's because you need a new internal pattern. And this identity shift pack helps you name the identity that is running the show when you feel tight, the version of you that grips, controls, and overfunctions. And it gives you prompts and language to shift into that CEO version of you without pretending you're not human. It's not about becoming emotionless. It's about becoming supported internally and externally. So if growth has been feeling heavy and you've been thinking, why can't I hold this? I wanted to hear me. You're not failing. You are expanding, and expansion requires new capacity and a new identity. So grab the identity shift pack, choose one small growth edge you're facing, and practice leading from the upgraded identity this week. Not perfectly, just intentionally. All right, friends, we'll see you next week. Bye. And that's a wrap for today's episode of the Accidental CEO podcast. Thanks for hanging out with us in the world where creativity and business strategy collide. I am Nada Salvatore, thrilled to have shared this time with you. Remember, every episode is a step closer to mastering the art of being an accidental CEO. So don't miss out. Hit subscribe, drop us a sweet review, and spread the word to your creative tribe. Your next big breakthrough could be just one episode away. Join us next time for more insights, laughs, and actionable tips. Keep pushing boundaries, dreaming big, and embracing the beautiful chaos of entrepreneurship. Here's to make magic happen in your business and beyond.